Jeetmani Pandit, Chartered Accountants. He also heads BFSI Services Division and Mumbai Operations at KNP. Nearly 3 decades of diverse experience across a wide range of professional services for the finance sector that includes banks, insurance, NBFC, mutual funds, exchanges, and funds. He is a member of Audit Standards Board, AASB, and Expert Advisory Board, BFSI of the ICAI, and contributor to several professional publications on BFSI and audit quality standards. His knowledge and domain expertise gets him invited to speak at various professional forums, both in India and abroad. So with this brief introduction of CA Sandeep Welling, I present to him before you. So over to you, sir.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Our chief guest today has set the tone. He has already spelled out the expectations from the banker's side. My question would be, if everything is so done so meticulously by the systems, if the regulators are so meticulously handling the oversight, why have an audit at all? Am I right? Probably we will be addressing exactly this issue during our day. Because in spite of all this, why in India, across the world, the audit still goes on. So there is something still left in our hand. And let's discuss that, number one. Number two, all of us have been, as chartered accountants, I have been speaking and I have been party to so many seminars, so many years now, almost 3 decades after I passed. But I have seen one thing, all of us have been relentlessly working towards the knowledge grabbing. All of us as a chartered accountant community, we are hungry for the subject matter. I have always seen that. However, you will always see any problem happens with any company, the first question that comes out, what was chartered accountant doing? There could be many judgments in the court that may go wrong. The lower court judgment will be overturned by the higher courts. The lower court judge doesn't go to jail. We are subjected to such. What is the issue? Where exactly is the issue? And I would like to touch upon certain points from that perspective. See, for us, audit, as chartered accountants, like I said, we are subject matter people. But we forget one small aspect. If we actually are able to turn up to, we will be able to plug in those issues. And I'll be talking on some of those issues. So, this is not a brainer. I've just picked up it from the site somewhere. We use such heavy terminologies. Frankly speaking, after reading this, none of us can get anything out of it. Colloquially, okay? None of us get. I would like to share with you, I always compare ourselves many times with other profession which is also subjected to regulatory oversight and is subjected to such serious allegations if things go wrong. And the nearest to that is a medicine profession. Imagine your own childhood friend, your own brother is a doctor associated with a hospital, and you go to him taking someone along. Even if he knows you, even if he knows your history, the moment you go to hospital, he will say, why don't you complete the admission process? He will say that. Am I right? Even if it is his own hospital. After he does that, basic check, he will say, let's do pathological testing. He will say that. So basically, he will get to the bottom of the problem. He will have independent reports coming to him to assess, or rather to protect himself, for him to take a line of treatment. Will he not do that? He will do that. After he does all this, he will study your entire reports. Then he will tell you what are the risks. What if I do this? What can happen? What can go worse? How can we eliminate that? Blah, 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 blah. So based on that, whether local anesthesia, full anesthesia, whatever, I don't understand the terminology. So he will go through that entire risk management. Then he will choose his team. He won't choose a liver doctor for a heart patient. He will choose his right team, people who know the subject. Then he will place them one after another, who will do what is each other's job. After he has done all this, he will do his process. That's where the subject matter comes. So imagine, before even we apply our subject, so much of process is involved. Imagine what is missing with us is the process of audit. We are all doing a very good job. Like Srinivas said, none of the bank has gone wrong, etc., etc. Yes, I do agree with that. But still, we are always on the wrong side of the argument when it comes to some mishap. This is because we are unable to show that we have done this job and we have done this effectively. What regulators, now I will not be discussing any subject matter during my speech. I have Pankaj and I have Nilesh thereafter who will talk on certain subject matters. I will be discussing on what those regulators are expecting you. They don't expect you to be good at your subject. But if you are not good, you are not given the audit. They expect you to be good in subject matter. What they expect is the meticulous observance of the process. Institute also has worked relentlessly on this subject for a long time, and often the the solution or the problem, I would say, lies in the process of our audit. So we are subjected to Reserve Bank of India, Institute of Chartered Accountant. If you are a central auditor, even SEBI, now we have NAFRA. We are subjected to so many regulators, and yet, we are not able to get there what they expect. Sometimes I would say, you may not be that good in your subject matter. Don't take me wrong. But if you are good at your process and if you are able to show that you have done this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you will not be held. So please remember, during the course of your audit, finally we are human beings. Something can go wrong somewhere, always possible. Okay? But if you are documentarily able to prove, and we often make mistake in uh, or are lazy to create those documents. Let's discuss on some of those issues. So, regulatory expectations, if you look at the auditors today, like the chief guest also said, they monitor us often 4 times a year. Even central statutory auditors are subjected to SSM scrutiny every quarter. They they invite us, like we feel like we are going to police station, and they keep on interrogating. They give us the instructions, do that, do that, do that. Next time they will, and they will not write the minutes. They will tell us to write. Please send me the minutes. So we have to send them the minutes. And then next time they will read those only and ask, show me whether you have done that. This is how the monitoring is taking place. So basically, Reserve Bank of India or regulator is expecting us to be part of the governance chain. So they expect us to be extended regulators. Look at the way government officers will behave. They will ensure that every note has a signature. There will be proper notings on each decision. All of that is expected from chartered accountants as well. Anything they do. Recently, I faced a FRRB review for one of the bank, and I said for that bank, my materiality was 25 lakhs. Why 25 lakhs? I said that was a smaller bank, cooperative bank rather. So I said that led to me covering 90%, which is why my materiality was 25 lakhs. If I were to have 50 lakhs, that would have gone back down to some X percent, which I didn't want. That's fine, he says. But where is the paper that justifies 25 lakhs and not 50 lakhs? My materiality paper is there in my document. So imagine, the expectations are from the documentation perspective are different. For branch auditors, Reserve Bank of India recently asked us to share the samples that we have chosen. Just 2 months back, there was a call, and they wanted us to compile. For some of the banks, they asked. So they are expecting us to be part of the governance chain. Obviously, the document also mentions very clearly your team size, team members. Uh, Guest sir spoke about the DISA, CISA. It is one of the mandatory requirement. If you are asking for a printout and going by the printout, and if you are not able to ask the right questions, whether you have asked or not, whether you don't have a right paper in your file, you will be construed to have not done your job. So please excuse me for my topic, wherein I will be putting subject on the second front, and I will be putting process, because that's my job today. So that doesn't mean subject is any less important, but my job is to convey to you the significance of process. And of course the audit process. So audit process, you have planning, execution and conclusions. At each stage, now institute has come up with a very detailed guideline on audit working paper templates. Institute has done the job. 90% of the job is done. All we need to do is download those. Now some of the firms, if they are doing a larger number of SCAs and various banks, they will also have developed themselves their own documentation. Okay, fine. If you don't want to do that, institute has given you a good facility of templates at each stage. All you need to do is download suitably modify that for your audit. Very minimal changes, and I'll be showing some of those to you. So if you are undertaking audit, please note, audit is a process. Audit is not a subject matter. You need to have a subject matter experts following that process. So you have ICAI guidance note, regulatory directions, closing circulars, and audit planning. Let me talk on the aspects which are necessary for us to maintain from the perspective of audit mm, planning first. Because I've A, for the paucity of time, B, mostly from the execution perspective, we do carry a lot of papers with us, and most of the mishaps and most of the indictments on chartered accountants is more on the basis of some of these planning documents, because execution they have conducted well, those documents are there, so we keep asking for the documents, samples are also with us, so that subject is being handled well by us. So we generally get caught in this phase. And although you have done that, the question is whether you had planned, on what basis have you done this. These questions we are unable to answer, and therefore it is conveniently concluded that you are not doing your job correctly. I was invited by NAFRA during their session, addressing their officers for the audit standards. So there was a 8 day seminar, and for one of the day, 2 sessions, I was invited. And generally a chartered accountant forum would ask questions. If this happens, how should I conclude? What should be my opinion on such matter? So we are always on the subject. What they asked me, the kind of questions, okay, sir, so if I come to your office and pick up a file, and if I don't find this document, does it mean that you have breached the ICAI regulation? Imagine the difference of the aptitude with which they come. And it is this particular angle which is being missed by all of us, which not only results a problem to a chartered accountant, but for us as a profession at large. And therefore my humble request, if you are conducting an audit, please ensure that these documents are available to you. If you have any problems, you can talk to your colleagues, you can talk to any one of us, and we have been gracefully sharing that with many people. The attempt has to be made. Independence confirmation. Now do you know that all this while I was taking an independent confirmation from the team members and the all partners in the firm. During our recent examination, there is also another aspect that came up, and that is, it is necessary that we take independence once a year from all the staff members, and that should be on your record. So imagine if you are running a CA firm, you are running a hospital. So all those documents and everything has to be in place. A regulator will ask you that. Very necessary. If you don't have that, your quality of audit is not good. Simple. Now some of us are peer reviewed. I was going through the peer review new requirements now which have come up. My peer review last was done 2 years back, another 1 year's time. And I realized the peer review also has materially changed. Am I right, sir? It's so materially changed. It has so many aspects of AQMM which have come into it, and practically it would be impossible for us to present it to peer reviewer if you are starting at the end of 3 years when the institute writes you a letter. It's not possible for you to pass through that. You better be prepared, because it is no longer what it used to be earlier. Even 2 years back, what was there is not going to, I know I'm not going to have the same thing. It is at least 5 times stringent, and I would say enhanced next time. So this is something, and if if you are not peer reviewed, blah blah blah, there are going to be restrictions to all of us in conducting audit if you are not fulfilling those standards. So independence, engagement letter, which we have generally, team mobilization. You have your team, you do your job, but have you documented? Simple. See, I'll show you. Sorry. Simple. This is one of the template. What happened? This is one of the template. See, institute has really done a very detailed, a very good job. Yeah. I don't need that anyway. I don't need that. I don't need that. Simple. Now you will say, what is there in this? No. You must know who were part of your team, what was their experience, what they did. This is necessary. We feel conducting an audit, issuing a report is the thing. No. Regulators don't expect you signing SA 700. Regulators, if you are given an audit, sir, you just go on the website and you will have all of this. But okay. So if you don't have this, you are not conducting an audit. You have not done an effective job. That's a regulator's concern. They ask you to show. Nowadays they ask you, the timesheets. Whether have you, how much time have you spent on the job? So so whatever I'm saying is not only bank audit. This is for a CA firm, even if you are a proprietor. So budgeting your time, man days, it's okay to cook it up, but have it. Have it. Yeah, because 4 days you will budget something. Fine. Because it's a question of 4 days. So preparing this is not a matter of even a 10 minute. But that trail has to be there, because after 3 years, your peer review, or if some regulator, please note, it is not always necessary that only central statutory auditor will be subjected to this. If something is wrong in the branch you have conducted audit, they will ask, pick up the file, let us know what auditor was done. And if this is not there, auditor has not done the job. Simple. This is the reason why people say auditor has not done the job. Okay? Note on understanding of when you are going to a branch, there has to be some understanding of your branch. What is that branch about? What is the kind of advances they are giving? What are the risks involved? All of that has to be noted. You may be knowing it. One cup of tea with a manager, we are experienced people. We are good at subject. We understand that. So if you have conducted audit, what was your base? Where is your pathological report? Why did you operate without having the right report? This is important. Materiality, I spoke about materiality. So there are two types of materiality. One is the overall materiality and one is the performance materiality. Performance materiality generally would be 50 to 75% of the overall. Wherein, you remember, we ignore certain small, अरे छोटा है, material नहीं है, छोड़ दो, material नहीं है, छोड़ दो. So what happens? It is necessary that at the end of your audit, all those non-material things should be, there has to be a paper that shows that this is the total of all the observations which is not hitting my performance materiality, and therefore I am fine not to pass the entry. Or many banks say pass it in the current year. Don't let me pass the MOC, you pass it in the current year. That is fine, absolutely fine. But you must have that. This being non-material, I have not passed it as of 31st March. I have allowed it to spill over, but I have ensured that it is corrected. This is perfectly fine. But have that document in your paper. Many times we have digital, we do Excel and all. You will have lot of things, observations also. Some of your junior has come up with the observation. You have resolved that. But your resolution, you have not put a comment in your own file. And if it is picked up after 2 years, A, you may not remember. B, you will not be able to convince that you have resolved that. So don't take it lightly. It's not something, and do it for the sake of profession, not for the sake of your firm or your fees. Because we are integral part of this larger community, noble community called chartered accountants. And one of us makes a mistake, has impact on all of us. So we are representatives. So this materiality, I'm not going to show this because it's too complicated, and generally it is more relevant from the CSA perspective. But for a branch, you can have a materiality. Now materiality does not mean only, as a bank auditor, we always go by the advance. No, materiality is not just about advance. Materiality is about the entire trial balance is there of that particular branch, which all accounts of that trial balance you will pick up for audit. If you are, because branch audit is an independent appointment, is an independent audit, and it is not a subset of, just a subset of a central auditor. It is not the central, you are not subjected to that SA 600 where a central auditor is seeking your support. It is the independently appointed entity which is being appointing you as auditor. Obviously, you will have your profits, you will have your own trial balances which you certify. So you don't do just, so you actually are required to do the entire trial balance. So what items will you pick up? Generally, whatever is the profit, 5% of that is the overall materiality, and 50 to 75% depending on that is the performance materiality. Generally, so any account that hits that particular amount, you have to have on your record that you have chosen that for the purpose of audit. I'll just show you, if possible, not here. Sorry. I think it's here. Yeah. See, this is again initiative template. So you list down your trial balance items. You have worked out your materiality somewhere here, and then based on that amount, this absolute value is basically nothing but if you are taking up say December amounts, and if you want to extrapolate that to but now that we are going, we will be having March figures only. So that absolute value is and amount is just the same. Whether above performance materiality this particular amount, yes. Whether selected for audit, yes. So when you say you have selected for the audit, you have to have your checking notes and what have you done with it. You have to have a working paper in your file to say that yes, you have audited this figure in the trial balance and this is how I have done. Imagine, look at the completely changed perspective of audit when we are looking at it from this angle. Simple, and this is a necessity, and this is a necessity for all the audits that we conduct, be it company audit, be it anything. So this should be part of your culture in the organization. I would say there are many, say, especially in foreign country, I was fortunate to have interaction on their study circles like this. And most of them were proudly saying, I don't undertake audit. And those who were undertaking audit, or they will say, if I err, I will err on the revenue side. So revenue side is the government side and not the client side. If at all I err, if I am doubtful about the judgment, and if I have to go this way or that way, I would rather go revenue way, not the client way. So you can imagine that thought process. Whereas for us, we are client oriented. We want our client to be helped. By doing that, by empathizing that, unknowingly we are becoming party to the crime of our client. Crime is too harsh a word, I would say, but that gives a message. Because you are expected to be part of the governance chain and not party to the crime or party to the problems that the promoter has created for himself. There is if you are undertaking an audit, otherwise be in an advisory position, doesn't matter, don't sign. Take pride in saying I don't take audit. But if you are undertaking an audit, be it this or any, have courage to be part of the governance chain. Don't shy away, because you can't, both are conflicting. Okay? So I'll move next. Fraud. I will be discussing this in a little details in my next slide, so I will skip. Minutes. After you have done that, keep a minutes that you have been to that bank, you have discussed, take signatures, branch manager, This is what you have done. Do that. Keep that on your file. And communication. Communication is most crucial part of audit. Be it this, be it communicating with those charged with the governance after you have completed the audit. That official trail. There was one NAFRA case I read wherein that entire communication and presentation was there in the file, but they concluded that there was no evidence that it was communicated. It was a big mishap case, so I won't necessarily relate these audits to those, but this gives us a perspective of a regulator. And therefore, that official communication is crucial. So, this was expectation from the regulators like a institute or NAFRA or other bodies. If something goes wrong somewhere, if you don't have these, you will be construed to have not done your job. Let us also now discuss from the regulator of the entity that we will be auditing. So this was one of the slide during RBI presentation. One or two slides here are I have just picked up from those RBI presentation for the purpose of our understanding, so that we know what they think. And this first para explains what the guest was discussing here. I am just trying to decode what he said. He said that is done. You don't worry. You don't. So I am coming to that point now. It says expectation from statutory auditors to display a greater degree of skepticism and independence in assessing the asset. Now, no more asset. I would say greater degree of skepticism. So, in a forum like this, when that officer spoke about greater degree of skepticism, one of us rose, "Sir, we have a concept of skepticism. Our institute has not given us any concept of greater degree of skepticism." That was the question. And I will be answering that question in my subsequent slides. So there are lot of things that we observe and we conclude that it's an administrative error. Stock statement not submitted, or small things, okay? Documents signed but not left blank. You will keep finding such observations, and we keep writing those observations, but account is doing well. Account is doing well. So there is no financial implications per se. So what regulators are saying, eliminate the fact that it's not deliberate before you conclude that it's an administrative error. I will be taking some examples, some in more details in the subsequent slides. System-based classification is already in place now, but you will still find sometimes the bugs. I have come across a situation where the DPD, the days overdue is 284, but account is standard actually. You check and check and check, everything is normal, why this? So it's a bug, and sometimes it's reverse also. You have only 30 days of overdue, but actually account is not being operated for months. So you get such bugs. So don't blindly follow the statements. Sometimes you will have to cross verify whether, because in a very seldom case you will find those. Certification. I will be someone in earlier address we spoke about certification also. I will be touching upon that point in the subsequent slide. Look at this, what regulator is saying. External confirmation. How many of us have been taking external confirmation when we do our branch audit? Non-compliance to, so they don't say you have not taken external confirmation. They say it's non-compliance to SA 505. Simple. Easy to indict you. Very easy to indict. Non-compliance with SA 505. So audit standards are meant to be compliant. That is what regulator says. So see, may not be all audit standards are. Now this is not an audit standard lecture. Otherwise, there are a lot of ways in which you can actually take it forward. But you can have a list of all the audit standards, and somewhere you can keep cross verifying whether you have complied with that or not. Audit sampling. I spoke about it. Audit sampling properly has to be documented. And if you have it in your documentation, against each, you must have your comments. If somebody has given observations, resolution thereof. Either MOC passed, if not passed, immaterial, if immaterial, whether taken to the schedule to see whether the totals are not crossing the materiality limit. This is required. Now audit sampling is a must. If you have done that, against each audit sample, you have to show what you have done. You have no choice. So sometimes doing an over audit is also not good. Be careful. Don't think that if you do 100%, somebody will pat you. No, not necessary. Do what is necessary. Your audit is not going to be renewed because you have done a fabulous audit work. Those criteria are completely different. So external confirmations, sometimes you have valuations, sometimes you have outstandings for long time. See, accounts payable is highly, I would say, vulnerable. You have EMDs for 10 years. After 10 years, you transfer. But 6 years, 7 year, 8 year, 2 lakh, 3 lakh, 5 lakh, 10 lakhs. Why would people not take it? Many times I have come across a situation where there is a movement in that. And actually, I am the officer, okay, and say contractor Pankaj Tiwari. Okay, I debit to, but monies go to me. These have been the mishaps. These have been the problems, frauds. So such confirmations. So there could be certain things if there are bank accounts. There are a lot of things for which we need a confirmation. There has to be an attempt from your side that you have asked for those confirmations. Ask for the address, send them letters, show some independence, at least in 3, 4, 5 cases material. In a branch, you won't have many. Audit working papers. Now IMF is saying that regulator should be authorized to look at the working paper. It is the institute which is saying no, they are my property. But NAFRA is anyway there now. They ask for the papers. So slowly, asking for your audit file will become a norm. And we will not be able to resist because finally they say it's a public money. So now I will also come to some of the aspects which the guest speaker was talking about. So do something extra, do something blah 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 blah. Okay? I will address that point, decodify that into with our terminology. Yeah. Sorry. So I will try to convert that to our audit methodology. This is again RBI slide. Look at this second. It hurts me when I read this. In respect of 20 large value fraud cases, except one case where external auditors pointed out at non-compliance with the credit sanction conditions. In no other cases reviewed by the committee, fraud were detected through audit process. So I will touch upon this aspect. He says, NPA is done, we have taken care of. It's off your chest. Don't worry about it. Because system is taking care. Then why audit? This is the reason why audit is, they need our audit. Most of the frauds have gone from standard to fraud direct. This is where I will relate to that statement of extra degree of skepticism. Eliminate first that it's deliberate. One more aspect I will come next, and that is, again I will point out to what the guest speaker spoke. There was a brownie point of how many NPAs you have done, how many downgradation. So we were happy providing. And the RBI says this is where the fraud takes place because they are happy to be classified as NPA rather than fraud. Because as NPA, I can go to other bank. I can be director in one company then. But if I am a fraudulent guy, my doors to the finance field are closed. We are happy providing. We feel financial statements are right. We don't have to worry. This is where regulator expects you. Boss, we have taken care of all those aspects that you were talking about all these years. This is where we need you. And therefore, it is necessary that we go beyond that particular provision mindset and look at whether there are something which can go wrong. Okay, so in most of the banks, complaints were the source of detection. With so many auditors doing audit, 3 layers of audit, could not find. And this is where regulators are now looking at. Boss, they are seeking your support. I need your support. They are shouting time and again telling us, we need your support. If we rise to the occasion, we have our next path with them. So in terms of NAFRA, we know that if you find any such fraud, a single fraud of 1 crore and above, it is required to be directly reported to NAFRA. Take your CAC also into confidence before you do that, but it is necessary. So this is another mandatory requirement which has come up during this year. NAFRA. RBI to anyway it was there. RBI is 1 lakh and above to the management, some 50 lakhs and above, something like that, audit chair, like that. RBI to is always has been there. In addition to that, NAFRA, बरोबर है ना? NAFRA. So, what has happened? Reserve Bank of India has come up with a circular in May 2015. If I remember the date, 7th May 2015, on early warning signals or red flagged accounts. I keep on talking about that circular. It's such a positive circular that all of us must have with us. Although that particular circular talks about accounts which are 50 crore and above. If the account is 50 crore and above, that circular is attracted, and it says there are 45 signals. Account may be running good, but if you find these 45 signs this was based on their top 20 fraud investigation. 45 signals. If you find this particular event, incidents with that particular account, it is not necessary. It may be fraudulent intent, or it may lead to some bigger mishap in the time to come. So, my request to you would be, keep that. You can use that for 5 crores and above also, because that will give you a perspective. That red flagging is not necessary, but that red flagging for the purpose of audit is always possible. It's a fabulous circular. You must have it. 7th May 2015. Now, I could not list all 45. Some of those incidences in that circular are such as critical issues highlighted in the stock audit report. Stock audit report has flagged certain issues, and if you are not taking care of, poor disclosure of materially adverse information, frequent changes in the scope of the project, liabilities appearing in the ROC search report, not in the annual report. I have practically come across a situation where the turnover in the audited balance sheet is 400 crores, but the total turnover in the account for the entire year is not more than 200 crores. Account is running well, not a single day delay. It's a perfect account. Now, these are the practical things. I've also come across a situation, related party transactions. Account is running well, no problem. I mean, one of the good accounts rather, very meticulously running. 80% of the purchases from related party and 100% of the sales to related parties. So the question was, whom am I financing? Are we financing the related parties or we are financing this company? So what kind of a assessment? It may be good one also. I don't say no. I don't necessarily say it's a fraud because there is no bar in someone doing that. But when you come across such, your risk assessment and your analysis on that particular account has to be well documented in your file. Because you will never know. Something happens to that account tomorrow, 2 years, 3 years down the line, and you get a letter. Sir, can you please provide me the details of what was? And you won't have it at that point of time. LC is issued without underlying. Now, some of these issues are slowly taken care of by the system. Not that, you know, RBI is trying to plug in one by one. But you will still find. But those will be only for the accounts above certain levels. There could be raids by income tax, some account is freezed in some other account, significant reduction in the stake of the promoter. This was a classic case. This was one of the very classic fraud case in India. In that particular case, the lead bank was Stanchart, and all public sector banks were actually the consortium members. Total fraud was some 1600 crores. And on the date of the default, Stanchart exposure was zero. The entire exposure was with all public sector banks. What they could anticipate, public sector banks could not. So all this is because account was running good. We were happy that no provision is required. So provision is no longer a criteria. I empathize with what guest speaker spoke. This is where he expects us to be vigilant and ensure that we are on the right path. We are part of the governance. We are helping them in ensuring that so that we are able to give them the right perspective through our audit. I'll go fast now. I've come to my towards the end. Institute has come up with the guidance note. All these years, Institute has been constantly upgrading the guidance note every year. You will have 95% of your questions would be addressed by that guidance note. In spite of that, if you have questions, you have expert panel, you can write and get the answers within 24 hours. So make use of that. Here, I would like to take 2 minutes of yours on special purpose reports. During the course of our audit, we are expected to sign numerous certification. And please, this certification when I'm talking about is not just for bank, it's for a chartered accountant, relevant to banks as well. Nowhere in the world, there is a concept called certification. By certification, generally any one of us, if I ask, would interpret it to be true and correct. It has to be perfect. Am I right, sir? I can't afford to have a mistake. It's true and correct. Institute time and again shouting and telling all of us there is, as a chartered accountant, there is nothing called true and correct. There is no thing called absolute assurance. Institute allows you, institute allows you to give only two types of assurances. If you are a chartered accountant and if you are raising your UDIN, generating your UDIN, you are allowed only two types of assurances. One is limited assurance, two is reasonable assurance. There is nothing called absolute assurance. Please remember, please, you must know this and you must use this power of yours, which institute has given to you. This is because what happens? There is a dotted line. You have no choice but to stamp and generate UDIN and sign there. You are not given opportunity to write anything. If you write even comma full stop, he will say no sir. RBI doesn't allow. This officer doesn't allow. You have to sign this. What do? Institute has come up with this guidance note, special purpose reports. It basically says that any certification, any paper called certificate that you sign, when you are asked, it is necessary, SA 202, agreeing with the terms of engagement. They are not theory, by the way, if you are generating UDIN. Otherwise, decide that you will not generate UDIN. It's okay. There is enough work and professional opportunity outside UDIN. But if you choose, please follow. Otherwise, it's a problem. So, you have to write that you can give only reasonable assurance, and there are formats available given there. A certificate format, generally colloquially we call it certificate, but it's a reasonable assurance report. There are formats available, you have to give in that format. Put your UDIN there. You are in 100% of the cases likely to be rejected, saying that no, you have to sign here. Doesn't matter. After having communicated that you will be issuing a reasonable assurance, after having communicated this certificate, you can freely sign on the dotted lines, give the same UDIN number there. Institute or no regulator will hold you responsible for negligence. Slowly, Reserve Bank of India has come to terms and they have started accepting this completely. At least I have in the recent past with Reserve Bank of India not signed on those dotted lines. They accept our certificates in the institute format. Other authorities are yet to, they are still in that English era, Babu era. So they want their way. Doesn't matter, but do this. You must know you are not giving anyone a absolute assurance. That's not your job. You are not licensed to do that. Don't cross your border. No. So generally what happens, I issue, my certificate is there, and wherein I say my report is attached. So I have a cross reference. Always do this. Here today onwards, never sign on the dotted lines. You issue a reasonable, and which says that what is reasonable assurance, what is the conclusion, then so easily conduct that audit. just have a record with you that they have followed that. Just having that paper in your file does not mean you have followed that. In fact, having that paper without having a record that you have taken care of that is a liability for you. Because knowingly you have not done. So don't have paper which are not necessary, and which are necessary must have linkage. Okay, so with this I think I'll conclude. Thank you.
So, on behalf of Bangalore branch of SIRC of ICI, I thank CA Sandeep Welling for coming all the way from Mumbai and addressing us and setting the right tone for today's one-day bank branch audit seminar. So, where he mentioned about the various aspects as to as a what bank branch auditor is expected to do from various regulatory platforms, and also where he highlighted about the process that has to be followed is very important during the audit procedures. So with this, once again, I would like to thank CA Sandeep Welling, and I request our Vice Chairman, Manjunath M. Allur, to come on the dais to hand over a small memento to today's speaker. Can we have a round of applause, please? Once again, thank you so much. We'll continue with the second session.